Hello, everyone. Howard Gearhauser here again. On the line, you have my dad, Dr. G. And one of the questions we've been getting a lot from our subscribers, health coaching clients, this has been a common question, is what can I do to make my smartphone or cell phone use safer? We've talked a lot about EMF. We've talked a lot about artificial light and the fact that this new technology might have its impact on our health. So my dad, I'm going to pass the mic over to him. He's going to give you 7 steps for safe cell phone use. So Dad, go ahead and let them in on those 7 steps.
All right, cell phones now in the United States are ubiquitous. So yeah, I think everyone has one, except for a few old people and a few infants. But everyone else has a cell phone, pretty much. Okay, so the first thing I think is important is children. Young children shouldn't use a cell phone unless it's an emergency. And the reason is they have an immature brain. So it's much more susceptible to the messages that are sent with the electromagnetic fields. I talked before in video how the electromagnetic fields have been shown to activate the voltage-gated calcium channels in our cell membranes, which causes havoc inside a cell. So one of the worst things you can do is cause havoc inside a child's head or a child's body. So a lot of countries in Europe are banning cell towers near school and things like this. And there's been studies that show that children are affected. One study showed that children that have a cell tower near the school, it immediately raised their blood sugar. Now that, might not be bad, but it doesn't sound good to me. It was a small study, so it's just like a pilot study, but it's warning us that there could be a problem. We know the brain isn't mature until the age of 25. So the longer you can wait to give your child a cell phone, the better, because their brain is going to be much more susceptible to it. Plus, they have a higher surface area to volume ratio, so they're going to absorb more radiation just automatically. So kids under 12, I'd say, shouldn't have them. There are earphones that are, they're called air tube, and they don't have a wire going up into the ear. That might be something to try. Okay, another thing I'd recommend is make your calls short. Don't be on the phone for hours. Make calls short, text more. Maybe tell all your friends, I want to text first before we talk, so that texting, there's less radiation. So talking is the worst. And the absolute worst is putting your phone like this. That should never happen. They've done the functional MRI studies where they look at the brain metabolism. When you put a cell phone here, the brain metabolism in this area lights up. Now, maybe that's good, but I don't think so. I think that is something to artificially stimulate the metabolism in your brain in an area near where the cell phone. Remember when they found brain cancers in people with excessive cell phone use, it was usually on the side that they put their phone. And if the signal is poor, then that means your phone is putting out a stronger signal to get the signal. So when you have the 4 bars, or how many bars there are, if you have the maximum number of bars, that's less radiation exposure. I mean, you're being exposed to the bars from the cell tower, but more important is the exposure from the cell phone itself. So you have less if there's more cell tower power where you are. So being a high bar area is a better place to use your phone than a 1 bar area. 1 bar area, you're zapping yourself more. So try to talk when you're at that better reception level. Okay, so the next thing is, now when you're making a call, as I said, don't put the phone next to your head, use a speaker. Now what I do is not only do I use a speaker, but I use a selfie stick to get the phone even further away from me, so I'm not holding it. So with the selfie stick, if you get in the habit of using a selfie stick, so everyone will just think, that you're really taking lots of pictures of yourself. So, you have this vanity issue, that's what they'll think. But no, you're just trying to get that cell phone away from your body because inches matter. And that's because of the inverse square law. So radiation goes out like this. So if you think of, okay, this is the same amount of power here as here, same amount of power. So if you're out here instead of right here, think of how much less radiation you get with just a foot difference in distance. And that's because of the inverse square law, which is a physics constant that means that radiation declines dramatically with the distance. And that's why a selfie stick of just getting a few more inches away from you. And also carry your cell phone in a purse or in a backpack. Don't carry it in your pocket where it's flush against your skin. Now, another thing you can do is put your cell phone in a case like this that has a radiation blocking side. So one side of this, the side I face as I'm talking, blocks radiation. So when I'm talking, I get less. If I have my selfie stick, I'm not touching it. So getting the back of my hand zapped. This one's called a safe sleeve. And the studies they report is that it cuts down 99% of the waves, right behind this shield. One side is shielded. So that's another way to reduce your exposure, especially if you have to talk a lot on the phone. Set it up on your desk away from your body and put that barrier between you and the EMF, and it'll reduce your exposure. And I already mentioned that, well, I don't know if I mentioned it, but inside a car, a car is a metal cage. The inside of the car is like a Faraday cage, meaning EMFs inside the car, when they hit the metal, they bounce around. So if you're in a car, you should always put your phone into airplane mode. And I'm not a fan of using Bluetooth in your car, even though, the hands-free is a law in many states for driving. But I keep my Bluetooth turned off unless there's a special meeting or something that I have to attend. So in the car, the phone should be in airplane mode or turned off. Okay, the air tube headsets, these are out there where there's no wire, there's air conduction, the last 10 inches up to your ear. That's a way to get less exposure. A way to get more exposure is to use a wireless headset. So wireless headset, is sending impulses directly into your brain, which I think is probably a bad idea. Okay, so the cell phone at night is a double whammy. One, you're getting the radiation, the EMFs. Two, you're getting blue light from the cell phone that disrupts your sleep. So if you check your email or make a call past after dark, anytime after dark, but the closer it is to your bedtime, the worse it is, that's going to disrupt your circadian rhythm, looking at the phone, even if it's in airplane mode. So you don't want to be looking at your phone unless you have something that blocks the blue light in the screen. There are some apps that can do that. Or if you're wearing blue blocking glasses, which you can put on, and you need to get a blue blocking glass that blocks anything lower than 550 nanometers wavelength in the blue light. So most of the blue blockers that, let's say, LensCrafter sells you, and they're clear or they have a slight yellow tint, they're not going to block nearly enough blue to preserve your melatonin. So just keeping the cell phone out of the bedroom will help mitigate that you're going to get the blue light exposure to disrupt your sleep, disrupt your melatonin. And we talk a lot about melatonin, how it's critically important as an antioxidant. It's critically important for good sleep. It's critically important for the cell repair and for mitochondria repair. Mitochondria, remember, the little engines inside our cells that make our energy. And so they need to be performing optimally. And that's critical. Okay, so that is some recommendations of mine. Maybe get the case that blocks EMF. turn it off more. You can never turn off your cell phone too often. Disconnect more, get out in nature more. Don't have the cell phone. This particularly happens, I see in young people today. The cell phone is kind of the center of their life. It's the center of their life. And the center of your life should be the sun, should be trees, should be rivers, should be plains, it should be the ocean. It shouldn't be a cell phone. Cell phone is a great tool. I use it myself on a daily basis, but I implement the precautionary principle that this thing may be harmful, and there's tons of evidence that it is harmful if we don't take the proper precautions.
And another thing to add about the cell phone, I know a lot of people think that, oh, if I am not by my phone and something happens, what am I going to do? I think setting up a way to where people can still get in contact with you if it's an absolute emergency is a good idea. Also, letting people know kind of when you're going to be off the grid is important too. For example, I don't like to use my cell phone until at least the afternoon. So the mornings I focus on myself, my work. Cell phone's very distracting. If you start going on social media, people are calling you, you hear notifications going off, you get literally physically addicted to picking up your phone. So get in the routine of spending some time away from your phone. Get outside. The more you can do that, the more you'll actually enjoy your time with your phone. You'll spend less time doing things that are toxic on your phone. So get in the routine of that. I think that's another important thing, to where you're not feeling like you're missing out, or that if someone's hurt that they can't get in touch with you. Get all of that stuff set up. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Dad?
I think that's a good idea, is to let your routine contacts know that, hey, I don't answer when you call. They'll get the message after a few weeks that, okay, leave a message or text me and say, hey, when can I call you? You train these people. You train the people in your network. You train the people where you work, your friends, your family. You train them. No, he doesn't answer his cell phone. You have to text him, or whatever it is. He doesn't answer the cell phone in the mornings. Wait till afternoon. If there's an urgent emergency, you're just going to find out a little bit later. But when does that happen? Not very often. Not worth the potential damage, in my opinion.
So start implementing those tips. Again, everything in moderation. This isn't about throwing the cell phone in the toilet, or never
That wouldn't be a
using.
bad idea.
We obviously use technology to get this message out. We use social media, but we try to do it in a healthy, positive way. So just remember, everything that you're doing has an effect. Make sure that you're doing those 10 things. I know I reference that a lot in these videos, but go check out that video of 10 cutting edge health protocols that your doctor will never tell you. Start doing those. Because even if you decide, hey, I'm going to use my cell phone all the time, if you do those other 10 things, it might counteract some of the harm from the cell phone. So if you're not willing to give up the cell phone yet, make sure you're adding in the things that can counteract the damage. But I think that's it for now. We'll see you guys on another episode, and we appreciate you tuning in. See ya.